Hey ladies and gentlemen, sorry I couldn't be here today, but I am going to finish up this note video for you so you have that going into your homework. I'm just going to do the rest of the note sheet at once, and I do ask that you take your note sheets out, you're writing things down, you aren't just dallying, okay? So please make sure you're actually writing this stuff down because it is important. And I'm not here to help you. There is a key for you guys to use for the homework, and I'm going to ask that you really focus on that homework. If you get it done today in class, then you won't have any homework over the weekend. Okay, so let's take a look at number 4. So we're talking about the synthetic division. Hopefully you watched the quiz. The video that Ms. Johnson made. So x plus 3, we're basically going to set that equal to 0, and we find that x is equal to negative 3. So I'm going to start and I'm going to write that in the upper corner, and I'm going to make a box here on it. Then I'm going to take each of the coefficients and write them out in a line. So I have 1, 7, and 12. So now I'm going to use a synthetic division process. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take and I'm going to bring this 1 down. I'm going to take the 1, multiply it by the negative 3, and I get negative 3. Well, 7 plus negative 3 is going to give me 4. 4 times negative 3 is going to give me negative 12. Well, when I add those two together, I get 0. Don't forget to make a t on that last term. That's where you know where your remainder is. So then I'm just going to kind of work my way backwards. Okay, so then I have this as a constant here. And then next, this is going to be 1x, which is the same as x plus 4. So really, you're going to take your remainders that are left and write what's left over. Okay? And you're going to write it as an x plus 4. And if there is a remainder, we're going to talk about what we're going to do with that as well. Let's take a look at these next ones. So again, setting up that synthetic division. So we're going to take that right there, and we're going to set it equal to 0, solve for x, and you get negative 3. So that's what's going to go in my upper corner. Then let's check my coefficients. I have 2, I have 3, I have negative 4, and I have 15. So let's go ahead and multiply those things out. Okay, so first thing I want to do is I want to take that 2, and I'm going to bring it on down. And now I'm going to take the 2, multiply it by the negative 3. That's going to give me negative 6. So now I'm going to add down that column, and I get negative 3. So now I'm going to take negative 3 times negative 3. Multiply those together, and I get a positive 9. Next thing I want to do is I'm going to take and add those, and I'm going to get 5. Again, just adding down those columns. Now I'm going to take 5 times a negative 3, and that's going to give me a negative 15. So that's where my t goes. And so I do have a remainder of 0. So now I'm going to backtrack. This number closest to the remainder is my constant. The next term is going to be my x term. And the term after that is going to be my x squared term. So this right here is my final answer. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen, this is the exact same thing that you did with long division. It's just a different format. Okay, we are going to be testing you on both formats when you do take the final assessment. But for the purpose of this worksheet, I do want you sticking with the synthetic division. I do want you trying both of these out. This tends to be the preferred method of most students. So let's take a look at number 6. So again, we're going to take x plus 4. We're going to set that equal to 0, solve for x, and we get negative 4. Okay, well, that's what's going to go in our little square. Then we're going to set it up. I have 3, 4, negative 2, and negative 1. So I'm really just taking the coefficients of each of those, and I'm writing them out without the x's. I don't need the x's, so leave some space to write the numbers. Make my t for my remainder. Notice that t always goes at the constant of the original problem. That's where I'm going to start making that t right there. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is bring that 3 down. Now I'm going to take 3 and I'm going to multiply it by a negative 4, and that's going to give me a negative 12. So now I'm going to take 4 plus a negative 12, and I get a negative 8. Well, now I'm going to take negative 8, multiply it by a negative 4, and that's going to give me a positive 32. When you multiply a negative times a negative, you get a positive number. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add negative 2 plus 32. When you add those together, you get 30. Next thing I want to do is take 30 times a negative 4. So when I multiply those two together, I'm going to get 120. So, and it's actually going to be a negative 120 because I'm taking 30 times a negative 4. So now I'm going to, again, add down the columns. So, oops, this should be a negative 20, and then this should be a negative 121. So again, I'm just adding down each of those columns. Well, I know this number right here is going to be my remainder. This is going to be my constant, my x term, and my squared term. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to write that out. So I have 3x squared minus 8x plus 30, and then I want to write this remainder. I'm going to take the remainder, and I'm going to write it over the original divisor, which was x plus 4. So this right there is my final answer. Okay. Now let's take a look at number 7. So for number 7, we're going to do the same thing. This just looks a little different. Okay, so we're just going to take, we have x plus 2. Set that equal to 0. Solve for x, and you get negative 2. So that's what's going to go in my corner box, is negative 2. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to write each of those coefficients. Now, here's the one thing I've noticed. I don't have a squared term. So just like with long division, I want to leave a placeholder. So if I don't have a squared term, I'm going to put a 0. So I have 6, I have 15. I'm going to put a 0 where my square term is supposed to be, a negative 28, and a negative 6. Okay, so again, that 0 just comes from the fact that there's no squared term, and I need to have that represented in my problem. So I'm going to take my 6 and bring it down. 6 times negative 2 is going to give me a negative 12. Add those together, we get a positive 3. 3 times negative 2 gives me a negative 6. 0 plus negative 6 is negative 6. Negative 6 times negative 2 is a positive 12. Negative 28 plus 12 is a negative 16. Okay, so now we're going to multiply those two together, and you get a negative 16 times a negative 2 is a positive 32. Subtract 6 from that, and you get 26. So I forgot to make my t there, but that's going to be where my remainder is. So then I'm going to look. Here's my remainder, constant. X term, x squared term, and x cubed term. So look at it this way. We have x to the 4th. That 4th is our highest degree in our original problem. So when we divide it out, we should have the next degree lower, so 3rd degree. So that's what we wanted. So we have 6x cubed plus 3x squared minus 6x minus 16. And now we're going to write our remainder divided by our original divisor, which was x plus 2. Okay. Let's take a look at number 8. This is our last kind of example problem. So we're going to take, and in that corner, I'm going to put 3, and then I have 2x to the 5th. Oops, sorry, I'm just going to write 2. Again, you're just writing those coefficients. Then I'm going to put 0 as the placeholder for x to the 4th, and then I have negative 1 for x to the 3rd, 3 for x squared, negative 2, and finally 7. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to work my way down. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is bring that 2 on down. 2 times 3 is 6. Bring that down and you have 6. 6 times 3 is 18. Negative 1 plus 18 is going to give me 17. Now I'm taking 17 times my 3. So that's going to give me 51. 51 plus 3 is going to give me 54. I'm going to take 54 times 3. That's going to give me 162. Plus a negative 2 is 160. 160 plus 3, or times 3, is going to give me 480. 480 plus 7 is 487. So now, again, that last term we're boxing off because that's going to be our remainder. So now this is going to be a really, really, really long polynomial. It's going to be to the 4th degree. So let's write that out. We have 2x to the 4th plus 6x to the 3rd plus 17x squared plus 54x plus 160. Okay, so it's just working our way down. And then I want to write that as our remainder, 487, divided by our original divisor, which is x minus 3. Okay, so if you're not understanding this stuff, it'll come. The examples on the homework are a little bit more straightforward. So I think you guys are going to do a great job with those. And we will talk about this on Tuesday when you come back to really make sure you've fully understood it. Let's take a look at this word problem. Okay, this word problem doesn't actually require too much more than what we're doing. It says the area of a rectangle is x cubed plus 3x squared plus 4x plus 1 squared. The width of the rectangle is x plus 1. What is the length of the rectangle? Well, we know that area is length times width. So if we divide the area of the rectangle by the width of the rectangle, we will get the length of the rectangle. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take x cubed plus 3x squared plus 4x plus 1, and we're going to divide x plus 1. So I'm going to put negative 1 in here, write out those coefficients. We don't need any placeholders because it's going down directly in standard form. First thing I'm going to do is bring down that 1. 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. Add those together, I get 2. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. Add those together, you get 2. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. Add those together, you get negative 1. So this right there at the end is my remainder. This is my constant. This is my x term. This is my x squared term. So let's go ahead and write out what that polynomial is going to be. You're going to have x squared plus 2x plus 2. Then we want to subtract off our remainder, and we divide it by the original divisor. Okay, so that's your final answer. Next, let's take a look at number 10. So for number 10, the area of a triangular sail is 16x to the fourth minus 60x cubed minus 28x squared plus 56x minus 32 square meters. The height of the sail is x minus 4 meters. What is the length of the base of the sail? So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do length times width, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to divide it out. So we're dividing, our divisor is going to be 4. So I take that x minus 4, set it equal to 0. That's what's going to go in my corner because that's what I'm dividing by. Then I have my coefficients I'm going to write out. And now I'm going to go through and do my synthetic division. I'm going to bring that 16 down. 16 times 4 is going to give me 64. Negative 60 plus 64 gives me 4. 4 times 4 gives me 16. Negative 28 plus 16 gives me negative 12. Negative 12 times negative 4 gives me negative 48. 56 minus 48 gives me 8. 8 times 4 gives me positive 32. So I end up having a remainder of 0. So the last thing I need to do is take things out of the synthetic division and write them down based on where they're located. Here's my constant, x term, x squared term, and x cubed term. So let's go ahead and write that out. So we have 16 x cubed plus 4x squared minus 12x plus 8. And that right there is your final answer. Okay, now I know I talked this really fast. This video is on YouTube if you want to go ahead and watch on your iPad, pause, and watch certain parts over again to help you understand better. But for those of you who get it and want to get working, you can get the worksheet right now. Again, I ask that you be respectful, work as you're supposed to, and that way you don't have any homework this weekend. Have a great long weekend, guys, and I will see you on Tuesday.